Ed, I hate to tell you this, but you are muted.
Let's start again. Let us have a drink first to help the labor. See that? Maybe I was drinking too much first, and then I forgot that. Welcome to Biblioventures, The Hobbit, Episode 8, Chapter 9, Barrels Out of Bond, from the Rosenbach Museum and Library in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I am Edward G. Pettit, and returning tonight as co-host is Dr. Sara Brown. Welcome back.
Hi. Yep, they let me back again. How's that?
I will always let you back. My Hobbit door is open for you. So
I enjoy that. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. It is wine time for me in this chapter because, boy, these elves love wine. How about you? Do you have some wine?
I am so boring tonight, Ed. I very rarely drink alcohol in the week. Yeah. And what I discovered last time I did this, having as I had a sup of Jameson's while I was doing it, is that the following morning I was absolutely wiped. Wow. And it kind of messed with my working day.
Yeah.
I have a glass of water. I'm really sorry, but we can pretend it's gin and tonic or something.
Oh, there you go. I think I'm the opposite. I think if I don't, I'm like, what's the matter with me today? Well, I have come up with, and what are all of you drinking out there too? Put it in the chat, email it to me, send me some drink ideas, because I came up with something late for this one. I knew I was going to have wine for the Dorwinian wine, and I'm also having some of the Philadelphia mead, which I absolutely love.
Nice.
This is their traditional mead, from orange blossom honey. And it's unbelievably tasty, and I really like it.
Oh, I like your goblet. That's rather splendid.
Yeah. A friend of mine made these many years ago. And you feel better drinking out of it. The glass should always suit the alcohol, the drink, even though, and not just for the reasons they have, the shape of it and the way the flavor and the scent comes in. No. It should be the whole feel of it.
Yes.
I mean, a martini in a goblet doesn't really taste any different, but it doesn't feel the same way. And I want to drink like these Wood-elves. But I've come up with a beverage that I think it's my version of Dorwinian wine, and it's prosecco and pear brandy and a sugar cube, and I will explain it all when we hit that part of the show. So, and I have it ready to go here. I'm just gonna say it's so good.
I'm just gonna stick a straw in that, and I'll see you at the other end.
Yeah. So, all righty. Well, thank you, everyone, for returning to this episode. We bring you our Biblioventures series for free, and there are many other Biblioventures series you can watch on our YouTube channel. If you would like to support the Rosenbach by donation or by becoming a member, I would sincerely appreciate it. You can do this at our website, rosenbach.org. Your support helps us create programs like this and all the Biblioventures programs that we do here, and also to care for our collections, including our first American edition of The Hobbit, which we can thank the Wyncote Foundation for their support of Biblioventures, for helping us to purchase that first edition of The Hobbit. The Wyncote Foundation has been friend of the Rosenbach for many years, and their mission is to support efforts that strengthen and enrich culture, community, and the natural environment. All righty. Our approach, if this is your first time watching it, our approach to this Biblioventure series is we're imagining It's 1937 or 1938, without the influenza pandemic. So we passed our
Hmm.
pandemic. We don't have their pandemics, and we are reading The Hobbit without the knowledge of the rest of the Tolkien legendarium because it was a standalone book for 17 years. Now, we can't, of course, ignore that stuff. And many of you have read Lord of the Rings and watched all the movies and read all the history of Middle Earth and all that stuff. So at the end of the show, we will have a segment called The Thane's Book, in which we make some of those connections for writings that he did later than The Hobbit. Although in this book, I I will mention, especially today, some of these connections with elves and the things that he had been writing already, because this is stuff that influenced The Hobbit, as it is. So that kind of stuff we will talk about. And as always, no spoilers. We're covering chapter 9 today, and so we're only going to talk up to chapter 9 in this book. Uh,
Okay.
Sarah, I asked Graham last week for his Tolkien Reading Day plans, which is
Hmm.
up from when we're airing this show. It's just in it's next week, isn't it? Yes, it's
Yep.
next week, I think. Yeah.
Yes, it barrels down towards us, if you'll
March
pardon the
20.
pun.
Wait, it's 23rd or 25th? Now I'm getting confused.
Oh, I'd have to look in my diary. Please don't ask me about dates. If it's not in my Google Calendar, it doesn't
Yeah, me
exist.
too. It just kind of
Yeah.
went past me somewhere in my head. That is the day that the kind of Lord of the Rings ends. So that day in Middle Earth, and people read everywhere. Tolkien Society does a lot of things. Do you have plans for Tolkien Society for Tolkien
Oh,
reading this year?
yes. I've already recorded a reading for the Prancing Pony podcast. So there's that. And I've recorded a reading for Jordan Ranells' Soundscape as well. So he'll be releasing that on Tolkien Reading Day. And then I will be popping into the Tolkien Society one and offering a reading if there's room and space for me. So I always like to listen to other people's readings as well. So I'll definitely be there and I'll offer something.
Yeah, Graham was talking about the Soundscape program too, and
Hmm.
it's March 25th. So sorry, dates. That's why you have the
Right.
just look it up.
What even is time? So yes,
Well,
I'm going to be doing that and I'm looking forward to it because Tolkien Reading Day is always fun.
good, good. Yeah. So with our local Philly Smile, we did a couple years we got together and read. We did it online during the pandemic.
Hmm.
Haven't organized anything for a few years, and now that I'm doing this every week, I don't know if there's another time also to do something else, but we'll see. Maybe I'll make a late announcement early next week and say, hey, I'm going to do this, and have some people join me.
Do it. You know you want to.
I know I want to. I want to do everything. Um,
Yes, all the things.
yes, but yeah, we'll see when I get done. All righty. When we last met, everyone, not you, sir, but when everyone last met in the last chapter, um, Bilbo the warrior has
Mm.
saved the dwarves from the spiders, but Thorin has been captured by the Wood-elves, and who are not nearly as friendly as the Rivendell elves. And this Bilbo as war, it's not just that he's changed, he is like fighting those spiders was what was very warrior like. Is this surprising?
Well, if you compare him to the Bilbo who goes running out of Bag End at the very beginning of the story, it's really surprising. But it's not so surprising, I think, if we understand what Tolkien is doing with Bilbo, which is introducing us to a different kind of hero. When you use the word hero, we think of the Aragorns and the Eomers and the Eowyn and people like that who are immediately we can see, well, they are heroic. But Bilbo is a different kind of hero. He's one who grows into his heroism, and because of that, he's much more relatable to us. He's not a Turin, and the tragedy of that we'll just set to one side for a second. In that he's not the kind of hero who's going to go out and slay a dragon. He's the kind of hero who will respond to a situation and do something about it because he's there and, oh, well, who else is going to do this? I'm going to have to do this. Right. What do I do next? And he
Mhm.
does that. That is so much more like us us ordinary folk, and how I hope we would respond to something that is right in front of us and we say, well, we're the ones who are right here. We have to do something.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of hero that Tolkien is presenting us with Bilbo. Really relatable, heroic in a quieter way, but in an equally effective way. And, he's only going to become more heroic, in fact, I think, as we
Mhm.
get through the story. No
Yeah.
spoilers, I promise.
Yeah. And it inspires him to do feats that, he not only he wouldn't have thought he could do, but I think are even surprising to a reader. I mean, just in fighting the spiders and running around and cutting all.
Right.
Now, granted, he's invisible. So
That
there's
helps.
he's got an edge there.
Yes.
And sting, and spiders don't have,
Yeah. But
sword.
but he could have put on that ring, gone invisible, and run away.
Yes,
And the
absolutely.
spiders would never have known he was there. And that would have
Yeah,
been really, really easy.
yeah.
But he doesn't do that. And I mean, the whole invisibility thing is a whole other conversation, of course. There's that whole moral thing about becoming invisible and what would you do if you could become invisible?
We've talked about that. You talked about
Yeah.
that. Now,
Yeah.
Bilbo makes the decision that isn't usually made in literature about becoming invisible.
Yes, he actually does pretty good things with his invisibility. And this is one of them, in which he could very easily have just run away and said, well, there's nothing I could do. What am I supposed to do? I'm just a little folk. I can't fight spiders. Instead, he uses the invisibility
Yeah,
for good purpose.
yeah,
And it's admirable, isn't it?
very. And Fred asks in the chat that he still casts a shadow, apparently. Yes, he does. And that's mentioned more than once in this, although that seems to be an aspect that will not survive into the
Hmm.
later books. That's
Right.
right. But in this, it's very important, and I will mention it later when it happens because I think it's significant that Tolkien keeps reminding us of it. One of the other things in this, reading this now, and trying to not think of the rest of the Lord of the Rings and the other things is that the dwarves continue to be very ineffective, just
Right.
as fighters. They're bumbling, is what they are.
Yeah. They're a bit
And
poor.
yeah, and especially in the in the post movie age, especially with the Hobbit movies, where they're all
Mm.
heroic and they've got all their weapons right away on their adventure, and no, they don't have any weapons, and if they did, they would just get beaten. It seems they would fall over each other. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's comedic, I suppose. That's part of the point, isn't it? But, if I was heading out of Bag End with these dwarves and expecting them to be also heroic instantly and excellent with their sword fare and brave and stepping
yeah,
forward, I'd be disappointed of Bag
yeah,
End because they're really not.
or,
Apart from you can see Thorin,
yeah,
you can see it's in him, but the rest of the dwarves, they just stumble around.
yeah. Ask other people to help them.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get the Hobbit to fight this battle for us.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
they fight back, and they do fight back, and they do their best after being poisoned and all of that, but not in the way I think that we might expect them after reading about Gimli. That
Right.
that's this not the kind of characters he's creating, and maybe it is that difference between creating the characters for this story, which he is originally telling to his children, and that is a children's book, and then writing then for grown-ups that he doesn't maybe think that the bumbling dwarves are going to be as interesting for an adult readership.
Right. Yeah. The comedy aspect needs to be toned down. For The Lord of the Rings, it's a much more serious book in many, many ways. The comedic aspect of the dwarves is fun for kids to read. But it's also noticeable that they do get more serious as the story goes on. They do get a little bit less bumbly,
Yeah,
but they are still very keen on pushing Bilbo ahead of them. You
yeah.
go first.
We'll see how much they learn by the end. Um,
Yeah.
There were a couple changes that I mentioned in the manuscript that you can see in the history of the Hobbit by John Ratliff. that I've been reading along with this. And I mentioned a couple last week. One of them, Bilbo doesn't use a thread like he's Theseus to find his way through the forest, and also that he can find his way back to the path, and it's and you know, because he has some great Hobbit sense in nature, and Tolkien's like, no, 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 it needs to be luck. And I think that was like it needs to be luck. He needs to rely more on luck than more on any kind of skills. But I also have a correction because I did say that there was a bit when the dwarves heard the elves singing and how it was eerie and strange to hear them singing in the woods. And I said that he had cut it. He actually didn't cut it. It actually is in there. It's moved a little when you're reading just that manuscript because there's no enchanted stream in the first manuscript. In the typescript, then there was the enchanted stream episode. So I just got confused. But if anybody was watching last week, it was like he's wrong. Well, I was. So um, I always need a correction in there. Um, and Tolkien did, and part of the manuscripts that are at Marquette University for The Hobbit that you can read in this History of the Hobbit book is he had done some plot notes at one point, you know, in between writing the beginning and then some plot notes for the next few chapters. And it's fascinating to see the plot notes for what he had originally, these were his original ideas about, you know, about the dwarves getting captured and Bilbo first by the spiders and then by the elves. And it says, caught by wood-elves. Oh, this is about Thorin was caught by the wood-elves and taken to the caves. Okay, that's still the same. The dwarves were all captured by the wood-elves, but Bilbo popped on his ring and followed them into the caves. That's still the same.
Mm-hmm.
Description of the wood elves caves. And then Bilbo stuffs his pockets with fairy cakes and goes back for Bladorthin or Bladorthin, Bladorthin was the original name for Gandalf. Frightened by Big Bear, and then that's crossed out. And then it says Medwed finds him. Medwed is Beorn. So Beorn finds him and sends for Bladorthin, who has luckily been staying with him. Bladorthin, angry, he comes and speaks to the Wood Elves king, and the dwarves are released under pressure of pledging rich gifts when they go back that way. Bladorthin says, now, really, goodbye. And the Wood Elves guard them to the end of the forest. So they get this help from Gandalf again. And then he's got the top of the margin in that manuscript, all shut up in it. I think this is the palace, the Elves' palace. Bilbo can't find his way out or get out the magic gates, lives by stealing food, finds Dory's cell, must get message to Bladorthin. Winter comes and Bilbo must go. And then another place he writes, Bilbo escapes by hiding in a barrel, which they are wheeling out. Medwed, Beorn agrees to find eagles and send a message. Bladorthin found at last. So it seems that just as this story was going along, like they get into something happens, and then Gandalf has to come in and save them. That he's still in that cycle. That's what happens each chapter. They get in a problem, but as a good author, I think he realizes, no, we're not going to do that again, right? This is Bilbo's story now, and at some point he needs to give it to Bilbo.
Yep. He needs to allow Bilbo to grow into that heroic figure that he's going to grow into. And you can't do that if he's constantly being rescued by Gandalf. So, yeah, it's good to have Gandalf take the lead in the first couple of problems that they come across. You know, but eventually it has to be Bilbo who does all of this. Otherwise, you might as well call it the Wizard rather than the Hobbit.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. These plot notes also make me wonder because, and I know, according to Ratliff, we can't, like, it's impossible to exactly date all this stuff. But I try to construct this timeline of everything. Is he telling the story to his kids and then he writes it down, and then he revises, obviously. So when do these plot notes come in? Are they part of him figuring out the story before he even tells it to his children? Or is has he already told them the story and then he started writing it, and then these are his notes that he's remembering what he's told them? It's all so it all falls in that oral culture, written culture.
Yeah.
It's almost like Beowulf,
Hmm.
right?
Yes. Yep, we don't really know what we got when.
Yeah.
Um, but I have a feeling that it was quite an organic process, that he would tell bits of the story and then he would go away and he would work on bits of the story and think about bits of the story. Then he would tell more bits of the story.
Hmm.
And I think it's probably more likely he was doing things like that. Because Tolkien being Tolkien, if he's going to tell stories about dwarves to his kids, he's going to go away and think, okay, well, which dwarves am I going to
Yeah.
use? And I will go back into the prose edda and I will take these names. And, because he's not going to just make up Disney dwarf names for his dwarves. He's going to go the whole hog because it's Tolkien. That's what he's
Yeah.
going to do. So I suspect it was a really organic process.
Yeah.
But as for timeline, good luck. I
Yeah,
don't think we
yeah,
have one of
and well,
those.
we don't have one for Beowulf, and I mean, and I mentioned
Mm,
Beowulf to everybody just the idea that Beowulf existed as an oral recited poem in different forms, and that at some point somebody wrote it down, but it would have been a story that would have changed over time between
mm,
the teller and they could have added stuff and taken stuff out, and what we get, you can even see in that written poem that it doesn't all quite line up, that there seems to be missing bits or that don't quite connect, and that's something that's true of oral culture, throughout, history. That is, that we have now that we really discovered in the 20th
mhm.
century, and how
Yeah,
these stories were put together over many centuries. And
absolutely. And of course, each century and each time within each century would have its own anxieties, its own focuses. And
yeah.
so they would emphasize certain parts of the story and retell those in a very particular way. And so those parts would change because of something that was really important at that time. And then you'd move on to like the next 20, 30 years, and something else would be really significant. And so a different part of the story might be told differently, or there'd be a different emphasis on one of the themes going through. So when you have something that is oral culture, whatever is most significant for that culture at that time is going to color the way in which the story is being told. And that means when we finally get to it, when we have the fragment that we do in the 21st century,
Hmm.
it's nowhere near what it would have been like
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Yeah. And I like
But
with this story that he's created, like just on a in a micro scale as an oral story, writing parts of it, working it out, writing more, and then revising. And then even after print stage, we get major revisions over
yes,
the
the
decades.
necessary retcon.
Yeah. So where it's a different book,
Mm.
from the first edition to the last one. There's a major significant change in it, which we covered in the Riddles in the Dark.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sure you said this at the time when you were covering Riddles in the Dark, but everybody needs to get hold of a copy of the original and read
Yeah,
that first
yeah,
version that was published in 1937,
yeah.
because you're so surprised at how different it is.
Hmm.
And that's the chapter where the most significant changes were made. There are other tweaks all the way
Yeah.
through, but that chapter right there, if you can read the original,
Hmm.
it's a stunning difference. But you can also then understand why he did that, because you can't retell the story using the original five
It
and go into
affects,
the Lord of the
and
Rings.
I've hit on this in almost every, chapter, especially since then. It affects the way you interpret this book too, and it affects the way you interpret what happens, what it
Yep.
means.
Yep.
It is, whether or not the ring has any power or not, it really affects everything. So, all righty. Let us get to today's chapter, chapter 9,
Let's do it.
Barrels Out of Bond. Little play on words there that I think people frequently pass over. Um, The dwarves are being held captive in bond, bondage, right? But there's also that phrase of goods are kept in bond in a warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And people in America, especially might know the phrase bottled in bond, especially you drinkers out there of whiskey. American whiskeys frequently, especially the first, half of the 20th century, the good whiskeys had printed on their labels bottled in bond. And that means that they were adhering to the 1897 laws passed about the regulations about the purity and the safety of the spirits that they were buying. And if it wasn't bonded, then you could be drinking somebody's moonshine and you have no idea what's in it, and it might make you blind or kill you. So that bottled and bond exists as a whiskey thing, but actually, um, it existed in England too. This phrase to be in bond, stored in bonded warehouses under charge of custom house officers. Then the importer would pledge a bond, a security certificate, like a bail bond, to pay the duties on the goods. So barrels out of bond is playing on that terminology.
Mm-hmm.
There is even a oh, I had a picture of it too, and now I've lost it. So, I found an advertisement from a newspaper about in a British newspaper, and it's gone. I don't know where I put it. Um, but it was
Shame.
specifically about alcohol, and it said in bond in
Mm-hmm.
the thing, meaning they were in their warehouses waiting to be shipped. So there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Mm-hmm. And this is a particularly appropriate thing because these barrels are all about trade in between the elves and Lake Town. So it's all built into it. It's almost like Tolkien was really clever.
yeah. Um, so clever that's one of those little word jokes that I think and I think for a lot of people they hear bound in it. So,
Mm-hmm.
instead of bond. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that word nerd that he was, he would probably have chuckled quietly to
yeah.
himself about that.
Well, the day after the battle with the spiders, Bilbo and the dwarves made one last despairing effort to find a way out before they died of hunger and thirst. They staggered on in the direction which 8 out of the 13 of them guessed to be one in which the path lay, but they never found out if they were right because the Wood-elves spring out. Suddenly out sprang the light of many torches all around them, like hundreds of red stars. Out leapt Wood-elves and their bows and spears and called the dwarves to halt. Um, they and they don't fight back because, well, they have no weapons, but also because the arrows, no use against the arrows of the elves that could hit a bird's eye in the dark. So, elves can shoot like Robin Hood, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
all of them can. And I love that little phrase there. The lights, the torches spring out like red stars, as if Tolkien can't write about elves with mentioning stars somewhere close by there, right? Um,
Yes, got to connect the two.
Elves are his star creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bilbo puts on the ring and escapes, so he doesn't get taken, and they arrive uh, at the uh, at the Elven King's palace. And let's share because there's a picture in the text, so let's look at that.
Mm-hmm. I like the perspective on this.
Here it is. This is from a copy of our book. Um, and the text is the bridge. There was a bridge that led across the river to the king's doors. The water flowed dark and swift and strong beneath, and at the far end were gates before the mouth of a huge cave that ran into the side of the steep slope, covered with trees. Bilbo did not like the look of the cavern mouth, but he goes in anyway. Um, very, very it it's a fascinating, it's a beautiful picture, with the trees all in a line, very symmetrical, leading up to this
Mm.
bridge, and then this
It's like the
door.
trees are on guard, isn't it? Like soldiers standing
Yeah.
there.
Absolutely. No spiders anywhere in sight. They're not going to get anywhere close to there. But there were a couple of drafts of this. Here's one of them, in which he has thrown some spiders around here nearby. You can find there's about five different drafts of this scene of this gate, of the Elven King's Gate. You can find them all in the Art of the Hobbit. This is one of them. I like here how the spiders are still kind of hinted at in the woods here. But the gate's round here, or circular, semicircular. And then here's a later one. This is shortly before that final we just saw. Again, it's from a different perspective. So it's not from within the forest looking out at it. But now here, this gate has changed above the door. The shape of the gate changes in all of them. Well, not
Mm.
all of them. It goes from rounded arches. Here's all of them together. Um, this is an Art of the Hobbit. All the different ones here. It's a rounded arch at first. This one, the ones in the middle here look very cave-like. And then he comes in and comes across this. He starts doing it this trilithon or trilith for a gate. That's a new word I learned. Trilith or a trilithon is a name for the megalithic structures of stones, like Stonehenge, with the two, up and then the one across on the top. And that's what he's kind of come to here for the final. I like that, that it's the, I mean, he's not thinking of Stonehenge in particular, but the idea of these ancient
Mm.
stones from this, these megaliths, would be more appropriate for this ancient race of beings in this land, than just a hole in the wall, a hole in the mountain.
Yeah,
Um,
it does look way more imposing, doesn't it? And as you
yeah.
say, it looks more ancient because of that resonance with something like Stonehenge. I also wonder if he moved away from the circular one because the circular one is kind of resonant of the Hobbit hole, and that's a little
Yeah.
bit too
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah. And here with this terrible looking gates up here, I could go right through those, up in the left
Yeah,
there.
I'm
It's
not
not
sure they're
very
as imposing
secure.
as you'd want them to be.
No. Well, they do have magic on them though. Um,
Mm.
but here you go. This is what he finished with, and this was published in both the British and the American first editions.
Yeah, I love the perspective through there. I like the way your eye is drawn to the gate. And I love the regimented rows of the trees. They must be deliberately planted to be like that.
Hmm.
So I do actually like the one that you showed earlier, which is the one slightly from the side of the bridge. So you can see that one. That
This
is
one, yeah,
gorgeous. I
yeah,
love that one.
yeah. And I mean, is it? It is almost, it is the same. I think it's just a different perspective.
Yeah, yep, it
Yeah,
is. Yeah, you can see the bridge
yeah,
across and the
yeah. The
pillars
bridge is the
underneath the bridge.
same.
Yeah, it does look
The
very
gate
similar.
itself is the
Yeah.
same.
I mean, I think we're looking down on the tops of the trees, which from the one that was published, we're actually sort of in amongst the trunks of those trees. So
Yeah.
we're seeing it. Yeah, we're
How
seeing it
imposing it
differently.
would have looked if for, Bilbo and the dwarves to walk down here and then across the bridge.
Yes, I suppose it's meant to intimidate, isn't it?
Hmm. Well, Bilbo did not like the look of it. And he only made up his mind not to desert his friends just in time to scuttle over the heels of the fast elves before the great gates closed with a clang. But he makes a conscious decision not to desert his friends.
Again, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and in some ways, this is even more scary than the spiders because he's now shut in and he doesn't know if he can get out again. So he's actually voluntarily gone into somewhere that is guarded with this huge gate, and he has no idea if he can get out. So it's another moment of heroism for Bilbo. It takes real courage to do something that you are scared of. And here he's clearly scared, but he does it anyway.
The elf guards sang as they marched. I don't think it was Tra-la-la,
Unlikely.
but we will get some elf songs later that they're not that far, actually. Um, and we're told that these are not like goblin cities, these, this place where they lived. We were even told in the last chapter that some of the elves lived outside and, they didn't all live in the caves. Um, but it's deep underground, cleaner air, or less deep underground than goblin caverns would be, filled with cleaner air. There's a great hall with pillars hewn out of the living stone, and there sat the elven king on a chair of carven wood. On his head was a crown of berries and red leaves, for the autumn was come again. In the spring, he wore a crown of woodland flowers, and in his hand he held a carven staff of oak.
Hmm.
I like that it's one word, Elven King, as if that's his title, but it's as well, almost as if he is the king of the elves. Um,
Right.
uh, now, in the greater legendarium, clearly that's not true, but in this Hobbit, it seems like this is where the king of the elves lives.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no king in Rivendell. They're
Nope.
not even headed by an elf. He's a half elf. He's an elf friend, Elrond.
Right. And the other thing I really like about this is the way in which Tolkien connects the Elven King with nature.
Hmm.
The chair, his throne is wood, the crown of berries and red leaves. And then in the spring, he wears one that is made of woodland flowers. He holds a carven staff of oak. It's really connecting him to the woodlands. So he is the king of the woodlands, but he's part of it. He's part of nature.
Um, Douglas Anderson in the annotated Hobbit has a note about oak. Oak is traditionally a sacred tree associated with the Druids and their sacred groves of worship. In fairy lore, it has stronger magical associations when growing near ash and thorn trees. And we'll come across all of those later in the book too. But the
Hmm.
idea that, Tolkien's picking the right tree. Tolkien's a guy that knows trees. Um,
Yes.
and he's not going to have a kind of tree in there for no reason at all. And I even love at the end of the last chapter, one of the things we learn about the Wood-elves is their favorite trees were beeches. I love that detail. Like, that they have a favorite tree, and this is what it is. So
Yeah. He does love to make sure there's lots of nature detail in there.
the so I first I would be like, oh, this guy's attuned with nature. He must be great, but nature's not necessarily friendly in
Nope.
this world, and nor is he. He looked grimly. Um, he says you can unbind them because they need no ropes in here. There is no escape from my magic doors for those who are once brought inside. So
Hmm.
there's elf fairy magic going on here. They can't open the doors, they won't open for them. The dwarves are, of course, obstinate,
Mm.
surly, and angry. They did not even pretend to be polite. That's a very funny line. And what we get is the problem of perspective here. The according to the elves, and this is what he states to them, they wandered in his realm without leave, and he's a king, and
Hmm.
we can understand this in times past. This will be important. It's important to some people today. 3 times they pursued and troubled his people in the forest. They roused the spiders with their riot and clamor. He knows that there's another one, although he doesn't tell them about Thorin, that who also wouldn't give him any answers. They're being secretive. So it's true. The dwarves seem really suspicious if you're the elves.
Yes.
Why
Yes,
would you trust
absolutely.
them?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Where do the elves live? They live in Mirkwood. I mean, there's a reason why they live inside a fortress.
Yeah.
because they live in Mirkwood, and there's stuff that goes on in Mirkwood that is, more than suspicious. They know that there's things going on in Mirkwood. I mean, those spiders are not exactly friendly spiders. So I think it's understandable that the elves would be concerned about these interlopers, because what are they doing there? Of course, from the dwarven perspective, they weren't trying to rouse the spiders with riot and clamour. They were not pursuing and troubling his people in the forest. They were trying to find the fires because they were hoping for some food and some help. But from the elven perspective, they're being invaded and they have to deal with that.
And nobody wants to listen to the other. So,
Well, no.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But again, let's face it, elves and dwarves, never the twain at this point.
yes. And this is a, we talked a little bit about this, even up to what his things that he's written about so far. Uh, and as was mentioned in the last chapter that, they've had,
Hmm.
and Thorin is annoyed by this because his people have not had a war with the elves. That was other dwarves that had the elves, that fought the elves. But yeah, there's a whole history here that's hinted at that I think we understand in just reading The Hobbit that elves and dwarves have a contentious history, and that leads to both sides distrusting the other right here.
Hmm. But he doesn't treat them badly.
No.
He
Well, they get locked up.
says,
They're in a cell. They're in solitary confinement.
yeah, but they get food and drink. I mean, he
They
doesn't
get food and
starve
drink.
them.
They're no longer starving,
Yes,
is
which
what we can
I'm
say.
sure some of them are very grateful for.
Yes. So Thorin was at first too. He's like, oh, after he got over, finally I get to eat and drink something after, how long he had to go without food. Then he started to grumble. But yes, it's nevertheless they are being held prisoners against their
Mm,
will. Um, and poor Mr. Baggins, it says, um, it was a weary, long time that he lived in that place all alone and always in hiding, never daring to take off his ring, hardly daring to sleep. It in the original drafts, they're there for months. Uh,
mm,
and here it just, I think what he's worked out, it's weeks because we can tell by what happens later and the time of the year, and it's only weeks. But originally this was months that they're held in captivity. But the fact is, even weeks is a long time. And for Bilbo, wandering about the elves' palace with magic shut the gates, sometimes he can follow them out as they go hunting. Um, and it's there's still the peril of, even though he's invisible, that they will find him. He couldn't go too close to them. They might see a shadow, especially outside. Um, uh, he could just leave. He can actually
he
leave the
could.
palace because he sneaks out with them. Uh,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
but then he has a list of things that he can't. He doesn't want to desert the dwarves. He doesn't know where to go anyway. He can't keep up with the elves once they go out hunting in the woods, and he can't discover his way out of the woods anyway. He's hungry, and all he has to do is steal food. He says, "I am like a burglar that can't get away, but must go on miserably burgling the same house day after day." Uh,
mm,
this is like it's like he's Bill Murray in Groundhog Day, but he doesn't get to change what he does every day to make it
no.
more fun and interesting. Uh,
Yeah, he's really stuck. But as you said, he could have left. Even at this point, it says he got outside. It could have
yes,
left. But it says in the text he did not wish to desert the dwarves.
yes.
He wouldn't leave them.
That is one, like, he doesn't want to desert the dwarves. He also, like, there's nowhere to go. So I mean,
Mm,
you have to
yeah,
acknowledge that. And so but it also mentions that shadow again, as I mentioned before, that more than once, as if I wonder if he had something planned for this later, that this was going to come into play, his shadow being
Mm,
cast, um, or maybe it will come into play, or it's either that. I think as a reader, you have to think like you keep reminding me of the shadow, so that's either going to come into play, or he's just reminding us that Bill he's got an invisible ring, but he's not an invisible ring, but he's not impervious. Like there,
right.
it's not, the
There's still peril.
yes,
He could be found. So yeah, there's still the possibility that if he's not really super careful, that the elves could capture him, and then they're all done.
yeah. This is the dreariest and dullest part of all this wretched, tiresome, uncomfortable adventure. I wish I was back in my hobbit hole by my own warm fireside with the lamp shining.
I
Um,
bet. I
that
would
this
too.
is
I don't blame him.
this is really legitimate this time. This big, being stuck like this in this, he can't help anybody, but he can't go anywhere, and this very helpless position that he's in right now.
Hmm.
Um,
Mm. But
he'd like
here
to,
is what I was talking about at the very beginning when you were asking me about Bilbo's heroism. Here it says, he soon realized that if anything was to be done, it would have to be done by Mr. Baggins, alone and unaided.
right.
And there you have it.
Yeah.
He understands that, well, I'm here. I'm the one that's going to have to do something. If there's nobody else, then it has to be me. And so it's almost like the heroism is, it's not forced upon him. He accepts it and he realizes, I'm going to have to do something. It
Yeah.
must be me.
He must be resolute. He must do
Mm,
something. This is, um, so he then assesses here, right? He finds out where all the dwarves are. Um, he listens to them talking. He finds out there's another dwarf here. He realizes that's Thorin. So then he goes and talks to Thorin. Um, Thorin was almost ready to give in, beginning to think of telling the king all about his treasure and his quest. But then Bilbo is, free, um, and he takes Thorin's message to the other dwarves, and um, uh, the message is, "Don't tell the king about our
say
plans,
nothing.
about the treasure we're going to get."
Hmm.
It's
The
his
first rule about Treasure Quest is we don't talk about Treasure Quest.
um, he says Thorin had taken heart again, hearing how the Hobbit had rescued his companions from the spiders, um, and then determined once again not to ransom himself with promises of the to the king of a share in the treasure. And then he thinks the remarkable Mr. Invisible Baggins, of whom he had began to have a very high opinion indeed. Um, that the idea that Thorin has a way out. He could say, "Hey, King, we're going for our treasure. We'll cut you in,
Hmm.
when we get it, if we get it." Um, and But he doesn't want to do that. And Bilbo has inspired him, as he's inspired the others. When they found out he had the invisible ring, they were, "This is great." I mean, they loved him even more. And Thorin has the same reaction to him. Everyone now trusts him. They all trusted Bilbo, just what Gandalf had said would happen, you see. Perhaps that was part of the reason for going off and leaving them.
Hmm. Perhaps.
That's a hard lesson.
It is a bit, isn't it? I mean, they could have died. So,
Yes. So they Uh, Bilbo, of course, wishes he still had the wizard, but that was no use. Again, it's just repeated that he needs to take over here and honestly and be the leader of this company, at least for the time being, until they can escape. Um, and I love this little narrator and narratorial intrusion here. But of course, as you have guessed, he did rescue his friends in the end, and this is how it happened. I mean, that active being told a
mm,
story, part of this text. I never get tired of it because I think he does it
mm,
well.
hmm. It feels very round the fireside with your kids, doesn't it? Come
Yeah.
here, let me tell you the story.
Well, a stream flows under the lowest regions of the palace and joined the forest river. Bilbo discovers there's another gate. There's the magic gate, but there's also a water gate. That's not magic. And they send out barrels and barrels and barrels. For the wood elves, especially their king, were very fond of wine. The
Mm.
vines grew in those parts. The wine and other goods were brought from far away, from their kinfolk in the south or from the vineyards of men in distant lands. Um,
Yes, I can't imagine they'd be able to grow much in the way of wine in Mirkwood.
mhm. And there is a town now. Now the world's growing for us, for the reader too. Like the geography's growing. Now there's a town. There's a town of men still there, Lake Town, built on the water. And the elves have a connection with them. Uh, um, and so the world's growing too outside. They're not just staying in their palace. They do actually have a connection with the world as well, even though this is still that magical fairy kind of place. They do still have a connection with the outer world.
Hmm.
And they like wine because, of course, they do.
Of course they
Um,
do. Yes.
well, the king's butler, and who we find out is named Galleon, Galion, Galleon, and the chief of the guards get together. um, Come with me and taste the new wine that has just come in. I shall be hard at work tonight, clearing the cellars of the empty wood. So let us have a drink first to help the labor. Well, I think I will. Um,
Cheers.
uh, Not the way of the world these days, I don't think, Sarah, to like drink to help labor. Usually it's the other way. It's the other way around for you, apparently.
Well, yes, but I'm very boring.
No three martini lunches for you, and then getting any work done,
Oh,
right? So,
goodness. Three martini lunches. I'd be in a coma by like 2 hours later. Well, I'd certainly be sleeping it off. Yeah,
ah,
day drinking is not a thing I can do anymore. How dull.
well, I've got the perfect job here. Um,
Clearly. Swap? Wanna?
yeah, we could do that. Um, they Bilbo, now here we go. Then now this next part, he hears this, and right away, it's when Bilbo heard this. When he heard this, Bilbo was all in a flutter, for he saw that luck was with him. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the first of six. The first time luck gets mentioned in this chapter is here. It'll be six, the first of six mentions in this chapter. This is, it's what happens with him. He has his Hobbit skills, and one of those skills is luck. He just has
Mm-hmm.
it. Um, uh,
Yeah, yeah. And luck is mentioned twice in one paragraph here.
yes. Um, They are drinking their wine. Two large flagons were set. Um, I hadn't thought about flagon until something one of the books, referred to it. I guess that's not a word anybody uses anymore. I guess I
I
read enough
don't think
old
so.
stuff that I don't blink. But uh, it's just a large container, as it's easy to tell from the text. But it's it's not actually an old word in English, and I'm surprised that it's not the kind of thing that Tolkien usually likes to use. It's actually a French borrowing. The earliest instant
That's
is
really, really unusual for
yeah,
Tolkien.
Mallory's. Well, there's a reason I think that it does work
Mm.
anyway, because Mallory's Mort to Arthur is the first mentioned late 15th century. That's the earliest OED reference that they found, or and that they have found. The OED has found, likely borrowed from but it's a French borrowing, but
Mhm.
Old English does have a word for flask that was borrowed from Latin, and that it may be the same kind of thing going on, that by then people flask and flagon are the same kind of word anyway, so maybe it's okay. So
I think it's a shame we don't use flagon anymore.
I
I'd
do
like to go
too.
into a pub and say, bartender, a flagon of your finest Shiraz,
There you
please.
go.
Yeah. And then be laughed at, but that would be fair.
Well, you just got to go to the Ren Fair to order that. So,
That's true. Yeah,
um,
we don't have Ren fairs over here. Can you believe that?
I absolutely believe it because because you live in the land that had that its real history, you know.
Yeah, but if they had Ren
So
fairs here, I'd go. They sound
yeah,
like fun.
it is fun. Well, there's a fun one near me. I mean, some of them can be very, very, very rinky-dink and just not that interesting. Um, but some of them, there's one in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair, that's very elaborate. They have built an entire town kind of within these walls over the years. They have a full joust at the end. It's a lot of fun. Um, uh,
Sounds amazing.
we used to go every year, and then we've been sporadic the last few years. Um, but they have their two large flagons, and they began to drink and laughed merrily. Here's the second luck again. Luck of an unusual kind was with Bilbo then. The potent wine, it must be potent wine to make a wood elf drowsy. It was the heady vintage of the great gardens of Dorwinion, not meant for his soldiers or his servants, but for the king's feasts only, and for smaller bowls, not for the butler's great flagons that they're drinking out of. So, um, it's Darwinian wine. Dorwinian, a place name mentioned in actually some of Tolkien's earlier writings, but it's hard to pin down where it is. It
Mm,
seems to finally be it's in off in the east southeast near the Sea of Rune, but it's we don't know actually, and it's also mentioned in the Dorwinian. The name is mentioned in the lay of the children of Hurin. Uh, their heads were mazed, and wine from Dorwinian. Their heads were mazed by the wine of Dorwinian that went in their veins, and they soundly slept. And another part in that poem he wrote, which is like 1918, he starts that, and I don't know how many years he's writing the lay of the children of Hurin.
oh,
So
yeah, a fair
um,
while.
but there's another passage. It bruised from the berries of the burning south, and the gnome folk know it, and the nation of the elves, and by long ways lead it to the lands of the north. So, um, what we do know is if we can't exactly find out where Dorwinian is, and they don't want you to know because they want all the wine to themselves, and they only want to export it to whoever they want to export it to. Um, it's very strong. Uh,
Clearly.
it's like the malt liquor of wines. And if it is, I wonder if it is even brandy, because brandy is
It's a fortified wine.
yeah, from distilling wine. You distill the wine, and especially as it's meant for smaller bowls, not big flagons. So that's why I came up with this drink today, which is uh that adds brandy to it, because I was going to get a bunch of fruit wines, and I knew I already had the mead, which is great, the honey wine. It's really delicious. But what I got instead was I got prosecco, a sparkling wine. I
Hmm.
could have gotten champagne. I decided to get the prosecco, and I added pear brandy to it. So
That sounds pretty
yeah,
good.
and a sugar cube. And if you have an Elvis shot glass to keep your sugar cubes in, that's better because he is the king, and this is a king's drink right here. So I needed to fully make it a king drink. Drop a sugar cube in, and then when you pour the prosecco in, any sparkling wine, that'll really break down the sugar right away. And then you can pour a little brandy in as much as you want. I didn't measure anything, so it's my Darwinian wine, and this will get you loaded definitely.
I'm still giggling over the fact that you have an Elvis shot glass because, of course, you have an Elvis shot glass,
Oh, Elvis is the king. So,
right?
um,
Brilliant. I bet that wine tastes good, though.
oh, that's really good with I mean, I like champagne cocktails, to add things to champagne, sparkling wine with something. It's, the Prosecco, just especially if I'm adding sugar to it. It doesn't need to be that fancy. Um,
Hmm.
uh, that really works. So if my head hits down soon,
We'll know why.
it's the Darwinian wine.
Uh-huh.
There
Well,
is
it would.
a vineyard that even produces something, and they've labeled it Darwinian wine. It's called Bardet. Vignobles Bardet in France, and where
Somebody's a Tolkien geek over there if they've called it Dorwinian wine.
where's their web page? Here it is. They have
I'm
a
amazed
couple.
they got away with that.
They have a couple different. Well, no, it's trademarked, and they've got it on there, so they paid for this.
Hmm.
They have a Dorwinian, a Numenor, and the Shire. So, and they go up in prices. The
So
Shire,
the Numenor wine will sink you, right?
yes.
You'll
So,
drown in that.
and it's 19 euros, 28 and 43 for the Dorwinian. And you could
Ooh.
buy them in a gift set for 90 euros. I don't think that's a crazy price. I mean, for it. So I don't know how good their wine is, but I would definitely try this. So we'll see. Maybe I'll order if
Hey,
I can
if
have it shipped
somebody
to
handed
you.
me a bottle, I wouldn't throw it back at them. That does look
Absolutely. So,
interesting.
I like the bottle. They've done I
Hmm.
like the shape that they've done to that.
Very
Um,
pleasing.
So you can actually get something that is Dorwinian wine. Um, and Peter Jackson actually gave his cast, he had these made and gave these to the cast and crew at the end of the shooting of The Hobbit. Um, and it is this, and you see these pop up on eBay and places that he had them made in
Mm.
2012. It was a particular vintage from a particular vineyard. I don't know which one. You can look that up online and find out. And they've done it all up in this, rustic look. It's a bottle without, it's not flat on the bottom because old bottles didn't used to be. And um, with this Dorwinian and the script that they used for modeled on Tolkien, but they clearly used through all the movies. But um, somebody decided I'm not drinking it, I'm selling it. So there it is. You can find a few of those online. I would have drank it.
I bet it tastes like vinegar by now.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it was a really good wine. So we don't know.
Yeah, maybe, maybe.
I have a wine bottle up there. Did I ever open it? I think I did. No, I didn't. We have a Philadelphia noir writer, David Goodis, uh um, uh, that we celebrate. We have these NoirCon conventions that celebrate Goodis and noir writing. And it's somewhere in a neighborhood in Philly makes their own wine, and they made these Goodis wine series with covers of the pulp paperback noir novels on them and all. And I still have mine not opened. Other people opened theirs, and it was undrinkable wine, like undrinkable.
Oh,
Uh,
I bet.
so I just saved mine. So I don't know. Wine made in Fishtown, Kensington, Philadelphia. So I don't know. But yeah, I don't think I'm ever gonna open it. Um,
Well, there's
or
no point if you know it's going to taste rank. You might as well leave it sealed.
maybe they were wrong. So, it'll be a test of my, am I an alcoholic or not? If I'm not drinking that, I'm not. I'm fine.
You're
I'm
not,
like, I'm
yeah,
not gonna
you're.
drink anything. I'm okay. All righty. Well, they fall right asleep. Well, they don't fall right asleep. They drink and they fall asleep. The guard does, and then the butler went on talking and laughing. I like that. And then finally falls asleep, snoring beside his friend. Um, and then in crept the Hobbit. Very soon, the chief guard had no keys. And Bilbo takes the keys. This is the luck. Like that they would drink the wine that's going to knock them out, and Bilbo's ready for it. Um, Everyone is at a party. Um, uh, and so Bilbo goes and lets out all the dwarves, and he takes command. Um,
Mm.
You must follow me. We must all keep together and not risk getting separated. All of us must escape or none. And this is our last chance. If this is found out, goodness knows where the king will put you next, with chains on your hands and feet too, I expect. So he has a plan. He follows through with it, and he takes control of everybody and says, "This is what you have to do." And I love that line, like either we all escape or no one. Um,
Mhm.
they're a company and they have to stick together and do that and do this, as one.
He's demonstrated that himself, hasn't he? Because
Yeah.
he could have escaped and he hasn't. And so
Yeah.
he's showing the dwarves by that no, we must all escape together. We're a team.
Well, before I continue, let me take this moment as I drink my Dorwinian wine. Brandy and wine, right? It's wine and wine. Whew,
Slanger.
good. I added enough too. That's good. Let me take this moment to thank all of you for watching this episode. As a nonprofit organization, the Rosenbach Museum and Library depends on the generosity of friends and supporters like you to keep programs like this free and accessible to thousands of fellow biblioventurers worldwide. I hope you will consider supporting the Rosenbach and this show by donation, which you can do at our website, or by becoming a member. Membership gives you free museum admission, discounts on programs and courses, early access to registration, which is always helpful in the courses. You can learn more about how to become a member on our website. Thanks also to the Wincoat Foundation for their continuing support of the Rosenbach. And also, every year, the Rosenbach holds a very special fundraising event. And you'll like this name, Sarah. It's called the Rosenbachanal.
Oh, I do like that name.
And it is to support our mission to preserve and share the stories that continue to inspire generations, like The Hobbit. I have a little picture of it to share here after the Derwinian wine. No, that's not it. It is this one. And you can find this information on our website. This year's theme is An American Treasure to coincide with the semi-sesquicentennial, the 250th birthday of anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. We have a lot of American documents in our collections. There is a cocktail hour, there is a seated dinner, there are performances, a live auction, and I'll be there. If you attend, you can have a drink with me. You can visit rosenbach.org/rosenbachanal 2026 for tickets and sponsorship opportunities. It's a little on the pricey side, but it's for a good cause. And if you are able to do something like this, I highly recommend it.
Did you make up Rosenbachanal?
Oh no, no, this has been going on for many, many years. So yeah,
That is pretty awesome.
yeah. So it's a lot of fun every year we have there doing it. The auction's a lot of fun. I think I'll be auctioned off at some point. Like something that I do, you can bid on and I will, and then show you books or do something. So
Hmm.
I don't
Cocktail
mind.
tasting.
Oh, I've done those. Yes, we've done
Hmm.
those cocktail and book things. So all righty. Bilbo, the dwarves are bumbling again, right?
Putting
Dumping,
them all at risk. Yep.
making noise to trap this dwarvish racket. And oh, this is where I mentioned there's a great autumn feast in the woods that night and in the halls above. Again, that tying them into these elves into nature. Um, and they were all and like they're bad guys, but then you hear that and you're like, let's go to the party. Maybe they should just show up at the party and say like, we're magic and we were able to walk out of our cells and we want to be your friends. Maybe they would listen. Um,
I'm pretty sure that wouldn't work.
it would be a
Nice idea,
lot.
though.
If it did, it would be a lot easier than a barrel ride.
It would, yes.
So, um, Bilbo tells him his plan. First Thorin is all excited. Gandalf spoke true as usual. A pretty fine burglar you make, it seems, when the time comes. I am sure we are all forever at your service, whatever happens after this. And then Bilbo tells him the plan. And
I
they don't
think,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah, I'm going to say that whole I'm sure we're all forever at your service lasts approximately 30 seconds.
yeah, yeah. What? We're gonna be in barrels thrown out a hatch and floating down the river? Like nobody thinks this is a good plan. Uh, But Bilbo, this is like he's like Gandalf here. Like, very well, come
Right,
back to
leave me to it.
yourselves, and you can sit comfortably until and think of a better plan. This is what Gandalf would say to them, right? Very practical. Follow me, or you get nothing. So,
Hmm.
which do you want? You get what you get, and you don't get upset. That's Gandalf's advice, and that's Bilbo's advice to them.
Well, yeah, I think it's a good time to be channeling Gandalf right now. I'd be a bit irritated with the dwarves too.
And so in the end, they had to do just what Bilbo suggested. So it's nice. He's not ordering them, but he kind of is. Because it was obviously impossible for them to try and find their way into the upper halls or to fight their way out of gates that were closed by magic. And here is an opportunity at least. Well, the wine of Dorwinion brings deep and pleasant dreams. We'll see if that's true tonight.
Hmm. I wonder if it brings hangovers in the morning.
So yeah, I don't like brandy. I don't like a brandy prosecco is going to give me a hangover. But I want, yeah, I don't, I and I'm, yeah, yeah. I'm not going to talk about it. I was just saying I'm not going to brag. I don't get hangovers, but it is true. I don't get hangovers. So,
Oh
uh,
my goodness, you are so lucky. These days, a hangover takes me 2 days to get over.
yeah. So,
I did say I was boring.
um, Bilbo, and I love this little bit here that before they went, Bilbo stole it and kind-heartedly put the keys back on his belt, on the guard's belt, right? That will save him some trouble if he is, that would save him some of the trouble he is in for. He wasn't a bad fellow and quite decent to the prisoners. It will puzzle them all, too. They will think we had a very strong magic to pass through all those locked doors and disappear. But it's nice. He thinks that, this guard who is this elf who has helped them be imprisoned in solitary confinement, all these dwarves. And he's like, yeah, I don't want him to get, in trouble. So that's Bilbo for you.
Hmm. Very thoughtful.
Well, they get into the wine barrels and other barrels, other stuff, butter, apples. I don't think I want to be in the butter barrel. But I don't want to be in any barrel. Bilbo packs them in, right? Does his best to find straw and other stuff to pack them in as cozily as could be managed in a short time. Um, and gets them all in. And then a number of elves came laughing and talking into the cellars and singing snatches of song. And they seem like these are like the Rivendell elves. They just sing and have fun and go to parties and you know
Hmm.
I mean, honestly, the difference is in Rivendell, they don't, get mad if you come into their land. They imprison you. Um, but maybe if they had come in without Gandalf giving the elves the head up ahead of time, I don't know. So,
Who knows? But also, like I said, the Rivendell elves don't live in the middle of Mirkwood.
mhm. Well, they're not far from the Misty Mountains where the goblins are kind of taking over that side and the trolls, the Enten with all the trolls are coming down. So it's not the friendliest place actually where Rivendell
No.
is around them. So the elves return and where's old Galleon, the butler, this is where they name him. And he is not pleased at being shaken or awakened, and still less at being laughed at because, of course, he's not drunk. He fell asleep waiting. It's their fault. I've been waiting for you so long. I fell asleep. Um, it was the salmon. That's in the Pickwick Papers. So they'll show up drunk at the house and they say it was the salmon, and they're drunk. Um, so the elves. These elves want to try the wine too, right? They tell Elle that this is, give us a taste of your sleeping draft before we fall to. And they drank once round and became mighty merry all of a sudden. But they did not quite lose their wits, which is good. I guess they didn't drink as much. I mean, this whole idea, drink first to help the labor. Um, put it on a t-shirt, okay? Darwinian proverb, drink first
Right.
and help the labor.
I'm
So
going to
help the
try that
labor.
one on Corey and see how he feels about me necking some whiskey before I teach.
There you go.
Yeah. See what he feels about that.
I don't think I've ever taught online without having a drink. So, I'm
Wow.
home, so
Well,
um
I'm home too, but yeah.
well, the he's mad at them. Get on with the work. There is nothing in the feeling of weight in an idle tosspot's arms. Tosspot. Let's bring that word back, okay? Um,
Uh-huh.
One accustomed to toss off his or her pot of drink, a heavy drinker, a toper, a drunkard. This is the OED. Um,
Uh-huh.
their
Yeah.
earliest reference to that is in 1568. I will pledge Tom Tosspot till I be as drunk as a mouser. Uh, from a book by Ulpian, Ulpian. What a great name. Ulpian Fulwell. Uh,
Wow. You have to grow into that name, don't you?
Book is called Like Will to Like, and I have a picture of it here. And there's the title page. A pleasant interlude entitled Like Will to Like, quoth the devil to the collier, wherein is declared that punishments follow those that will rather live licentiously than esteem and follow good counsel, and what benefits they receive that apply them. I'm sorry.
Apply themselves.
They apply themselves to virtuous living and good exercises made by Ulpian full well. Five may easily play this interlude. It's a verse and everybody speaks, and you can see they have here the prologue. Tom Tosspot is one of them. Haken Hangman. I like Rafe Royster down here. Pierce Pickpurse, Cuthbert Cutpurse. But there's also God's Promise, Virtuous Life. Yeah, I don't want to talk to them people. I want to talk to Tom Tosspot will be fun. But That's the earliest reference to the phrase tosspot.
Because I'm very old, I can remember back in the 80s, that was still a bit of an insult that you could throw
Yeah,
around without
yeah.
being told off for swearing.
Very
Calling someone a
British.
tosspot.
Yeah, you wouldn't find anybody in America, like people in America would know that phrase at all outside of Tolkien. So yeah.
Hmm. I don't think it's used today, but I can still remember it as a kid. Somebody yelling across the schoolyard, you tosspot, without knowing anything about the
Yeah.
origins of that phrase or anything. It just sounds good.
Well, that's what he calls them. Or there's nothing, the feeling of weight in an idle tosspot's arms, because they think that the casks or the barrels are, some of these are heavy. There's,
Not supposed to be.
so uh but first they do a little elf song and then they start one, but it's just roll, 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 rolling down the hole, heave ho, splash plump, and down they go, down they bump. But we get to the longer one in a second. Um uh they uh because first we find out that Bilbo suddenly discovered the weak point in his plan. It's a great line, right? What a great setup. Um, Most likely you saw it some time ago and have been laughing at him, but I don't suppose you would have done half as well yourselves in his place. Um, uh, that's just another one of those nice touches that he adds with the narrator that I think work really well for this. That if you did think of it, then it's like, yes, I thought of it. But if you didn't, it's just this like like a moment that he's able to create. And it's that Bilbo is not in a barrel. Uh, so that's a weak point in the plan, definitely. Now we get their elves song, the big song. Elves began being very merry, began to sing a song round the river door. Um, uh, and this is a fun song. This is a song
Mm.
sing in the pub, right? especially with the south away, seek the sunlight and the day. I mean, it's got a couple nice moments in it that you could really,
It's a bit of a rollicking drinking song as well as a work song, if you like.
yeah. And I think it's interesting that their song isn't. I mean, it starts down the swift, dark stream you go back to the lands you once did know. I mean, they're talking about the barrel. I mean, this is the work that they're doing, they're talking about.
Hmm.
And everything centers on the natural world. You leave the halls and caverns deep, leave the northern mountains steep, forest wide. And then it's trees, the breeze, the rushes, the reeds, the marshes, the weeds, the mist, the mere and pool. It really centers on the natural world, something that these wood elves would be very in tune with. Uh,
Mm.
and then, obviously, because it's an elf song, follow, follow stars that
Stars.
leap up the heavens cold and steep. So, um, elves and stars are always together. But yeah, it's a fun song that they sing. So we've begun with these wood elves. They're hunting and they have parties and they seem like they're friendly, but then they're not friendly. They immediately leave when you try to approach them in the woods, and then they imprison you, and then they're not nice to you at all. And then you see them in their regular life, their regular everyday life, and they're just as nice in their
Yeah.
everyday life, they seem, as the Rivendell elves.
And I actually prefer this song to Tra-la-la way down in the valley.
Yeah, this
This
is a
is
song
kind
I'd
of
sing.
more fun.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know what tune it goes to, though. Well, I'm not a musician, so I couldn't figure that out. Tolkien apparently knew the tunes, but he just wasn't a good singer. Was that? I think I remember reading he wasn't a good singer, but he did understand the tune that would go with the things that he wrote.
well, a lot of the poetry that he writes for both The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings are songs, not just poems, they're
Yes.
actual songs. Um, but he used to write songs back in his Leeds days, and some of those songs are drinking songs. Songs for the Philologists, have you come across that?
Hmm.
Yeah, those are all drinking songs. And they're very nudge, nudge, wink, wink about academia. And there's some funny stuff in there if you know the inside jokes. And he set a lot of them to nursery rhymes. So they would be very easy to remember when one is in one's cups.
Are they all published in the new poetry collection?
I
Because they used to be
think
hard to get the songs for the philologists, I know.
yes, yeah, I actually have a copy of Songs for the Philologist, but only on PDF. Alas, because there's only about a dozen actual copies of the original
Talk about a
extant.
title that's not gonna, go flying off the shelves. Songs
Uh,
for
Songs for the
philologists.
Philologists. But yes, they're all in the new poetry collection. So I had the great fun of teaching quite a lot of them to the classes.
Oh, good.
And we actually sang some of them together because they're set to recognizable nursery rhymes. And we had quite a lot of fun with those.
But you didn't drink along with, so
I
I,
was teaching, Ed.
it, it, it's an academic exercise.
I
It's
know,
it's
but I
this is
was
what it
teaching.
called for. If it calls for drinking, then what am I going to not drink? It's, I have to be true
If
to
it
the work.
if it makes you feel better, if it makes you feel better, I'm actually doing a few of those for a paper at Leeds International Medieval Congress in July. I'm looking at those particularly because it's set in Leeds. The Congress is in Leeds University, and all of these songs for the philologists were created while he was at Leeds, and I intend thoroughly to sup from a glass of wine whilst doing these because I'm going to do it a la Tolkien
Good.
and teach these songs to the group.
Right.
I hope this
I,
works
I
because I've never
agree.
really done this sort of thing before.
Yeah,
I
that is
usually
the way
do
it
very
should happen.
sober and serious and theory heavy. And I thought, you know what, just for fun, let's
No.
do this
Yeah.
instead. And
Yeah.
hopefully I won't get, banned by Leeds International Medieval Congress for next year. Oops.
Well, then you could start your own, counter, session. at whatever the local pub is. So
But
um,
it just sounded like a fun thing to do. So if
it
it makes you
is.
feel
It
better,
is
I
a
will
fun thing. Good.
absolutely be partaking of
I
something
don't need to feel
alcoholic.
better. Please do the work that you do the best that you can do it. All righty. Well, Bilbo realizes that he's stuck, so what he does is he just jumps. He caught hold of a barrel, pushed over the edge because he's invisible. They don't see him do it, and down in the water he fell, splash, with the barrel on top of him. Um, he's alone again in the dark tunnel. Well, alone because they're all in barrels. Um, all alone, for you cannot count friends that are all packed up in barrels. Out the Watergate, and some of those barrels he could see that Bob DeLong seemed pretty low in the water, so he figures they're the dwarves inside. And then he wondered if he would die. Oh, he's shivering in the water, and he wondered if he would die of it before the luck turned.
Hmm.
And the luck turned all right before long. So the luck comes in for Bilbo once again, and that all the barrels kind of crash into one part of the shore, and he's able to get on top of one because he can't float in the water all that time. It's cold, and he'll get hypothermia. And I think Tolkien realizes this. that, that I know it's fantasy, but I understand that, he could die in the water. Um, he can't swim, as he's told us before that he can't swim. But we don't have any of that Hobbit fear of the water. That doesn't come until later. But he has said before that he can't swim. So this is a very courageous thing for him to do, is to hold
Mm.
on to a barrel and go over the edge into the water. Um, Luckily, he is very light, it says, and he's able to ride the barrel along the uh, in the water. And then here we have another picture from Tolkien, um, which I have seen in a couple places as his favorite of his paintings.
I believe I know which one you're about to
Illustrations.
show.
Yeah, and this is Bilbo comes to the huts of the raft elves. Um, this is the best image I could get from it. Um, there he is, floating down. It's this beautiful watercolor. I just, I love all these curves. I love the way he does that. That I love this bulbous leaves up in the trees. There's something really beautiful and fantastical about this that I find so attractive. And the motion in it, there's just motion everywhere in
Mm.
the curves and the lines.
And the reflection in the water.
Yeah, from the sun coming up here. This is a picture I took. I took this photo from the Art of the Hobbit book. I couldn't find a picture online that I really thought got the color right. At least, and I assume that the Art of the Hobbit by Hammond and Skull really worked hard at making sure they got the colors right. And I didn't find any of them online that I thought did it as well as this. Um, but here they are. Here he is heading down, uh, and of course he has boots, because did have boots apparently in his mind. Tolkien thought he had boots on, and not barefoot like hobbits are now. Um, but heading down to the river here, and then we could see that this is where they're heading for, where the other elves are, to gather these up and bind them together and send them off to Lake Town. Um, and are these all elves? Well, we'll get to that in a second. I want to ask that question in a second. Are these all elves living here outside of this place? Um, and then he did do some drafts of this, and this is another picture that he had done. Um, uh, that's just different perspective, just trying it out. Him on the barrel here, where he's heading to. it's a little, this is at night, so it's a little, uh, I guess a little gloomier in a sense, but where he's heading to, these places are all dark, and the one he finally came up with, everything's brightly lit with the sun coming up. There's a hopeful aspect to this, right, Sarah?
Yeah, the greenness, and you can see the sun. Sorry, not the sun, the moon peeking out from the side of the.
Oh, is that the moon?
I'm guessing.
Yeah, because everything just seems so lit here. So yeah,
Yeah, unless it is the sun.
yeah.
But I thought it would be nighttime
It is
because
nighttime when he
yeah,
arrives, so it has to be. Yes,
it has to be the moon.
and it's so bright, and here he doesn't do the in the original draft he doesn't do the brightness so much. He makes sure that we know it's at night.
Hmm.
But and that is his sketch. Well, he is very specific as he always is about the landscape as he's moving along down here. Um, uh, the Bilbo is well, he's where is the landscape part? Sorry. He's hurrying along the forest river, the north bank, in which it had eaten out a wide bay. There was a shingly shore under hanging banks and was walled at the eastern end by a little jutting cape of hard rock. And then the barrels go bump against a stony pier. Very specific about how he wants the landscape to look as he's going along. And then we finish with where I lost my place. Okay, hurrying along the forest river. There were people on the lookout on the banks, and they pulled everything, in here. Later they're called the raft elves. Are they? And then they're called men at one point. Are they people here, or are they just elves? I'm not 100% sure. And
Um,
but it's important because I think is this like a community of elves that has to live here?
yeah. See, when I read this, I kind of assumed that it was humans, but it's not. It is elves. And I'm assuming that they have a job, that they live here specifically because they have this job to do. It's a, you know, maybe they have to take it in turns because they miss out on all the parties in the Elven King's Palace. So maybe
Hmm.
there's like a shift, a rotating shift of elves that come out and do this.
They could be sampling the Dorwinian wines that come through, though. So they may have their own, they have their own stash here. Um, uh, but Bilbo's cold. He finally stops. He's cold. He's wet. He's hungry. He steals food because, he has to, and he doesn't feel guilty about it, it says. Um, uh, He knew only too well what it was to be really hungry, not merely politely interested in the dainties of a well-filled larder. And then he sees a glimpse of a fire. He's dripping. He's in, ragged clothes. And then we're told too also that we are drawing near the end of the eastward journey and coming to the last and greatest adventure. So we must hurry on. That reminder too. We're being told a story, and this is definitely a transition moment here in the text. The end of this, we've moved. We did it. We made it past Mirkwood, and but the practicalities is that yes, he has an invisible ring, but that doesn't help you when you're dripping water everywhere as you walk along, and the terrific explosions of his suppressed sneezes because he's gotten a cold doing all this. But of course, luckily there was no sun at the time to cast an awkward shadow. So Another reminder of the limitations of the invisible ring, that he casts a shadow, and another reminder that luck comes to Bilbo always. So um, these elves also notice that these barrels don't seem to be empty, some of them. I like that Tolkien doesn't let that slide.
Mm.
That, that's ridiculous. Of course, some of these barrels have something in them, and you would know it. The other elves noticed it and pushing them off. These elves noticed it, just by the way they're in the water, but he works through it, and at least he acknowledges it. And this way, they're just like, hey, just tie them up and get them on. That's your job. Don't worry about it. Um, and they're called the raft elves. And and off they went. You want to read that end there? And off they went, and went at last until the end. Last two paragraphs, short.
Yep. Okay. So from No Time Now.
And off they, yeah, that's fine.
No time now, cried the raftman. Shove off. And off they went at last, slowly at first, until they'd passed the point of rock where other elves stood to fend them off with poles, and then quicker and quicker as they caught the main stream and went sailing away down, down towards the lake. They had escaped the dungeons of the king and were through the wood, but whether alive or dead still remains to be seen. Dun dun
Maybe,
dun.
maybe they're all dead. It's 12, 13. What is how many? Wait, no, because Bilbo's the 14th, right? Yeah. So
That's right. Otherwise, they would have
maybe
been
there's
13.
maybe
Yep.
there's 13 dead dwarves in those barrels. So, but we don't know. We'll have to wait to find out.
Yes, they're currently Schrodinger's dwarves.
um Well, I have a couple things for the Thanes book that I want to ask you about. We have well, we've talked about the elves. We don't need to get into that much because we also talked about them last time. In the last chapter, he lists these three kinds of elves, and he's really tipped the hand that this is, who they are, that these are elves that didn't go over, to Valinor. And but the Elven King is not named in this text, but he really lines up with Thingol. And it seems like he shares a lot with Thingol in what he's already written about that elf king in the
Mm,
woods, but it doesn't perfectly line up.
no.
So,
Thingol, or as I like to call him, that doofus.
yeah, yeah. Um, he's not the greatest elf. He's not the elf that you're going to say,
That
this is an elf.
doofus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this Elven King lines up with him, like in what
Yeah, a
he's
little bit.
done and
Yeah.
who he is, and he seems there. But Tolkien doesn't really seem to, like he's not forcing the Hobbit to be part of that universe yet. Um,
No.
but he
Mm-mm.
can't help but having written about these other elves that he wouldn't use some of that material to create them.
Hmm.
And he does in the end, after Lord of the Rings. I got to write an appendices. I've got to create all this. It's Thranduil, right? And I don't think he's
Right.
named until the appendices.
No.
Um, but that's very late. So it's, but it's odd. If you never, like, if the appendices don't exist and you read this early stuff, these early lays that he's writing and this history of the elves and parts of Silmarillion, you would just think that this is Thingol anyway, and that some of the things don't line up, but it seems to be him. And of course, Legolas isn't here. Where's
Nope.
Legolas? Um,
Oh, I think he's off partying with his friends somewhere
that's what
else.
he is.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's just a young elf at this point, isn't he? He's only about 2,500 years old. What's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Um, the in Lord of the Rings, when he shows up at Rivendell for the council, he is Thranduil's son. So, but and then the Hobbit movies that are made, they have to insert him, and you almost have to. It's just like we have to, or if you don't put him in that, you have to acknowledge, well, where is he? Um,
Right.
if this is where he's from, and this is the whole part of retconning this whole thing. Um, but Yes, if you're a Lord of the Rings reader, Legolas would have been there,
Mm,
or somewhere near there, because this is where he's from. And then there's the whole kind of connection with his development of Nargothrond and that whole story of those elves in the first age, and the Wood-elves and their cave palace, and how much they look like each other,
mm.
in his descriptions of it, in the text. Um, so uh, what's interesting is all the connections I think that you can make with things that he's already been writing about for the last, decade or so, or almost 2 decades, that connects to things in The Hobbit, but he doesn't make sure that The Hobbit, that it everything works well.
That
Like
it lines up.
yeah,
Mm.
it doesn't matter to him that this is a different this is like a different story venture for him than the
Yeah.
rest of the stuff that he's doing, right?
Yeah. Well, originally it absolutely was. Middle Earth is never mentioned in The Hobbit. And he only really makes any effort to bring it into his legendarium as part of the retcon that he does when he's writing The Lord of the Rings. When he's actually writing and publishing The Hobbit, it's not part of that world. But as you say, he uses all the things that he's been doing in creating all the stuff that's in Book of Lost Tales 1 and 2, for example, his drawing of who the elves are there. He's pulling from all of that to create the look and feel of his elves in The Hobbit. So that's there. It's colouring it, it's flavouring it, it's seasoning it, if you
Hmm.
like. But it doesn't line up perfectly until, well, it doesn't line up perfectly ever, actually. But he lines it up enough for us that we can place The Hobbit in between Silmarillion and Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings.
There seems to be more attention paid to kind of Celtic fairy lore in The Hobbit than he
Yep.
ever than later he ever even acknowledges that, like, no, that's not the thing he's interested in. Um,
Yeah, that whole peril of fairy. You
yeah.
enter Mirkwood, and suddenly you have spells, you have magic, you have enchanted streams. You sort of step into a world that is completely set aside from the actual world. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what you're going to encounter, but all manner of perils. And when you exit, you are not the same. You've
Yeah.
been changed. And Bilbo is not the same Bilbo from the one who entered Mirkwood, who's already, started to grow into himself. But the one who enters Mirkwood is not the same as the one that exits Mirkwood. He has done so much and experienced
Hmm.
so much. But The Hobbit is a fairy tale. If you read Tolkien's On Fairy Stories, The Hobbit fits that idea of the fairy tale.
Hmm.
Fairy with the AE, not just the AI in the
Hmm.
spelling. Yeah, all of the things that we think of in terms of the peril of fairy, it's right there.
Yeah. You mentioned going to this world, that being there's this imprisonment underground that
Mm,
happens. And there's that whole idea of elf mounds, the fairy hills where people get trapped inside them. This is all this kind of Celtic fairy lore. Um,
hmm.
these things are kind of gateways to fairy. But it's also, it connects to classical world. I mean, it's the underworld, right? In classical mythology, it's, the gets kind of combined with fairy lore. Um, it's Orpheus and Eurydice, which becomes the Sir Orfeo, tale in Middle English.
Hmm.
And it's fascinating that how much that he loves that idea that people getting like within, and it's always within an earth here. Here they're caverns, trapped in here, they're trapped in the goblin caves, but there's these it's this underworld trip you have to take to then, change and become something else, or go on and be a hero in a different way. And even in Lord of the Rings, the Barrow Wights, right? Those
Yes.
barrows where they get trapped in. And
Mm. Well, there are numerous journeys under the earth or through the earth in the Lord of the Rings, and they're all perilous. Yet the Barrows, Moria is another obvious
Mhm.
one. For Frodo and Sam, the tunnels of Shelob. all sorts of places. And for Aragorn, of course, passing through the mountains and picking up his army of the dead on the way, there are tests. It's a testing time when you pass through the earth in that way. You are tested, and you come out the other side or you don't. In the case, of course, of Gandalf in Moria, he is tested in Moria. And although he doesn't exit Moria with the rest, he comes back
Yeah.
different, comes back renewed.
Yeah.
So every time you go through the earth in these stories, it's a test.
It's interesting with Tolkien too, who's someone who went from being a classicist, to then, a medievalist and dealing with this idea in two different, time periods that really fed on each other.
Sure, yeah. But there's lots of resonances with other sorts of fairy type folk, and Dimitra Femi's written a lot about how the elves in The Hobbit are very like the Tuatha De Danann of Irish Celtic story.
Mhm.
And again, they have they have Tir na nog, which is the land that is separate, that you have to
Yeah.
pass through something
Yeah.
to get to. So there are similarities with all sorts of different mythologies, tales, etc. But so many different cultures have similar ideas that build into similar stories, if you like.
Hmm. Graham Cheadle, one of our other co-hosts, is in the chat. Hi, Graham. But he
Yep,
mentions
see
that
it.
Thranduil is mentioned in the Council of Elrond, not just the
Yes, of course he is.
being
Yes.
blasted. So there we go.
Yes, but I do love that somebody has made the comment that Legolas is currently getting his hair done, and that's why
That's
you
what he's
can't see
doing.
him in The Hobbit.
No, he's not. He's not because it's just perfect the way it's just he gets out of bed and it's like that.
Typical man, you have no idea how much work it takes to keep your hair looking perfect like that.
I used to be a long-haired guy, so I know. So yeah. Um, but and this beard doesn't look like this just getting out of bed. So there you go.
I'm sure it takes care and attention.
It doesn't. I'm one of those like, yeah, I just, pull it together. There we go.
Ah, right. Yeah, I just brush mine once a
Yeah.
day.
So there we go. All righty. Well, Toss Pots, thank you for joining us.
Oh, rude.
To hear it be fun that where you are, it's like, no, that's rude. Thank you for joining us for episode 8 of Biblioventures. It's like the perspective difference between the elves and the dwarves, right? So I'm
Yep.
more dwarf, I guess. Especially with this beard. Thank you, Sara, for joining us. You will
You're
return in a few
welcome.
weeks when we discuss
Oh,
a new
what am I doing next?
chapter. You're doing next, Not at Home and Fire and Water.
Ooh.
So,
Okay.
I think that's next. Yes, that's next for you. So, thank you, Brianna, our chat assistant, providing the links in the chat. Next week, for episode 9, we will cover 2 chapters, 10, A Warm Welcome, and 11, On the Doorstep, with artist and Ulyssian Robert Barry. Bilbo and the dwarves first stop in Lake Town, then finally arrive at the Lonely Mountain. And that's what we'll talk about.
Some
Thank
great
you.
chapters.
Yeah, thank you to all who have made a donation to the Rosenbach or become a member. We couldn't do these shows without your generous support. Your donations help us create more programs like this and also care for our collections. You can also become a member. Membership gives you early access and discounts to programs and courses. You can find out more at our website, rosenbach.org. Thanks to the Wing Code Foundation. If you're interested in coming to the Rosenbach now, you can go on to the Rosenbach website and get tickets for that. Thank you for watching this series. Continue to spread the word. It's always nice to have new people watching the show. I like to see that. I am Edward G. Pettit of the Rosenbach Museum and Library. Drinking first to help the labor. That's what we need to do, right?
That's what we're
Drinking
taking away from
first
this.
to help the labor. That's it. All righty. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.